Are they not such a blessing? Thank you. Thank you, Keith. Thank you for making my vision. I early in the week, he'll ask me what my title is, and I said, instead of giving a title, I said, here's what I'm thinking about, right? That's what I said, here's what's on my mind. Here's what I'm listening to. And if y'all don't know, that's Mavis Staples. Mavis Staples, who was a thank God she's still with us, is a gospel singer, R&B singer, and with her father and her family, they had a group called the Staples Singers, the Staples Singers. Yes, right, I'll take you there, yeah. And they were civil rights activists and sang in churches and sang Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's message. They sang his message. And so it's a song that I've been listening to all week, and it's been my mantra. It's a great mantra, right? It's just an awesome mantra, and it's been my mantra. And it reminded me, as I was listening to this song all week, of a walking prayer. And I'll give y'all what I mean by that. When I was going through ministerial school, we were in a class, and the teacher asked us, what was our intention for our prayer life? What was our intention? And one of my good friends and colleagues, who continues to be a good friend, said, I want my life to be a walking prayer. I want my life to be a walking prayer. And I was like, wow. Right? That hadn't occurred to me. That hadn't occurred to me that was actually the path. I wasn't there yet. And so what I said is, I want that, right? That's what I want. I want that. And so as I reflect on it, as we reflect on Jesus in this time of Lent, we know that is exactly what his life was, right? It was a walking prayer. It was a living, breathing, walking prayer. And he was walking. Right? There weren't airplanes, there weren't trains, right? He was walking. Of course, he did go into Jerusalem in a donkey, but otherwise, he was walking. That's what he was doing. And so, what I want to talk about is continue to talk about that prayer life. Because what we're focusing on is the prayer life and how it is here to encourage us and inspire us to live the well-watered life. That's what we talked about last week, right? That to live a well-watered life or to live a prayer life, we set an intention. It's very that simple. Set an intention and then trust the truth, knowing that the truth is the one God, and then follow through, right? And the follow through is the rinse and the repeat. It's the continual, ceaseless practice, right? The continual, ceaseless practice. And so I want us to just try on our very simple affirmative statement, and that is, every step of the way I found grace. Let's just try that on, see how it feels, and just breathe into it. Every step of the way I found grace. Just breathe into that. Every step of the way I found grace. And just see, does that have meaning for you? Or do you see how grace has been the ribbon that has run through your life, right? Because that is what grace is. I love what Anne Lamott says about grace. Like, I don't know what it is, that mystery, but I know it finds me, maybe picks me up, and it drops me, and I'm not the same. I'm grown, I'm enlightened. So every step of the way, and I'm sure that's exactly what Jesus said when he was walking. Mavis Staples' lyrics, I'm sure, were in his mind, right? Every step of the way I found grace. I'm sure they were. So talking about the prayer life, one of the things that we've said in class is that it's not a one-size-fits-all, right? What we've discovered in the class is we all come here with the concept of what prayer was or supposed to be, right? And we were dictated about what it's supposed to be. Perhaps we were raised in a faith tradition that said, this is prayer, right? And so one of the things that we've done in the class, and hopefully I've also done in the sermon, is expand your definition to what prayer is and encourage you to find that practice that works for you, because for me in my life, it has become so many different practices. It's not just a one practice. It's so many different. So I want to just look at Jesus' life and see how he had a walking ministry. And really what he did were two things that I want to talk about. One is his definition of God. He had his own personal definition of God. And two, he prayed ceaselessly. And I want to talk about what that looked like for him. And then I want to also talk about my own, how that walk is showing up in my life, and how it shows up in my life when I struggle. So that's what we're going to work on this morning. Just look at it as his walking prayer. In his walking prayer ministry, and I know you all already know this, he fed the hungry, he healed the sick, he challenged the righteous. Keep that in mind. He challenged the righteous. He comforted the afflicted. His deepest longing was to teach people the way, right? The way to God. Keep in mind, he was not Christian, right? No, he was a rabbi, right? He was a Jewish rabbi, and he was teaching them the way to God. So one of the ways that he did that was that he shared his own personal definition of God. His God was not a vengeful, wrathful God that was out to get him or anyone. Would you not agree? That was not his God. His God was a loving presence. He called God Abba. That meant Father, right? It was this paternal presence of constant love. And so that's what he wanted to share with everyone, is this God, this is for everyone. This is everyone's God, not just my God. This can be your God, right? And one of the ways that he did that is he went deeper into, and it's not that he didn't feel the human, because he did. Remember last week when I talked about Garden of Gethsemane, he was suffering, right? On the human level, he was suffering. He was in anguish, and still he went back to that presence, and that presence is what brought him peace. And when he raised Lazarus, there are two words in the shortest sentence in the Bible. Do y'all remember what that is? That's right. He felt the human, right? He felt it. So it's not that we don't feel it. We feel it, but then we do what he did, and he surrendered, right? He surrendered to that presence. He surrendered knowing that it would move through him, and it would change him in many ways, right? It would change him so much so that, as you know what he did on Easter, right? He's resurrected into that new creation. And so that's what our work is, right? This constant surrendering into that new. He prayed not to be spared from life's challenges, but to know how to be fully present for them in a way that would allow him to evolve into more of the man in the divine expression that he was meant to be. In other words, he was not defined or limited by the physical being. Instead, he kept surrendering his human self to the God of his understanding, right? He kept surrendering himself. And he would say, and I know y'all recognize this, the Father and I are one. The Father and I are one. It's this constant oneness. And the beauty of it is that he invited us into that oneness and said to us, you can do this as well, and you'll do this even better than I have. That's beautiful, right? That's what we believe here in Unity. We can also do this. He's not the exception, but rather the elder brother that shows us the way. So his prayer was simply to know union with the force of life. That was for you, Thomas. The force of life. Simply to know union with the force of life. Prayer was the method through which he discovered the God within him. So, once he had this understanding of God, what did he do? He communed with God. So now put your seatbelts on, because I found 25 references of Jesus praying. So here they are. At his baptism, in the morning before heading to Galilee, after healing people, praying all night before choosing his 12 disciples, while speaking to the Jewish leaders, giving thanks to the Father before feeding 5,000, before walking on water, while healing a deaf and mute man, giving thanks to the Father before feeding 4,000, before Peter called Jesus the Christ, at the transfiguration, at the return of 70, before teaching his disciples the Lord's Prayer. Thank you again, Heather, for that. Before raising Lazarus from the dead, laying hands on children and praying for children, asking the Father to glorify his name, at the Lord's Supper, prayed for Peter's faith when Satan asked to sift him, prayed for himself, his disciples, and all believers just before heading to Gethsemane, in Gethsemane before his betrayal, and there he said 3 different prayers. We talked about that last week. Right after being nailed to the cross, Jesus prayed, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." While dying on the cross, Jesus cried out, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" In his dying breath, he prayed, "Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit." He prayed a blessing on the bread before he ate with others after his resurrection. He blessed the disciples before his ascension, and some believe there are verses outside of the Gospels which show that Jesus is still praying on our behalf. So what do you get? What'd you get from that? Jesus prayed, right? That's the practice. He prayed constantly. It was a ceaseless practice. So he was the walking prayer, right? And every step he took, he found grace. So how do I find grace every step of the way? To live my life as a walking prayer is not only my intention, but my practice. And there are times when I'm in this practice, and I know y'all will feel this as well. There are times I'm like, I got it. Yay, I got it. I'm doing great. I'm doing so well. Look at me, y'all. Has anyone ever felt that way? Like, yay. Yes. I'm only peace. I'm only love. I'm only freedom. And I got it. There are times in my life I feel that way. And there are times in my life where I do not. And I feel like I'm beginning, and I'm in kindergarten. Anybody ever feel like that? Yes. Like, oh my God, I'm in kindergarten. Who am I? Do y'all say this to yourself? Who am I to be a minister? I'm in kindergarten. Reverend Vita's right? Who am I to be a minister? Who ordained me? What were they thinking? Right? I go through that. And I'm going through that. I'm not going to lie, you guys. You know, I've always been very honest about my journey. I'm going through that right now, my own struggles, my own struggle. And yes, I did the beating myself up. I should know better, right? I should know better. And then I recognized that the reason that this is showing up, whatever challenge or challenges that are showing up, are for my deeper healing. Amen. It's always for the deeper healing. And I always go back to the wounds that I feel like I've already healed them. Anybody else done that? Yes. I've already healed that. Why is that showing up again? I've already healed it. But here's what I know. It's showing up again, for one, because it needs deeper healing. And I won't say what I want to say, because maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I'll lose my ordination. No, anyway. Maybe I'll lose my license if I say what I want to say. I won't say it. So it's showing up because there's a deeper healing that needs to happen, and it's showing up because my foundation is stronger now. Amen. Right? Yeah. And so there's that part of me that knows this isn't going to crumble me. Maybe it's bringing me down to my knees, but it's okay. I've got the practice. I've got this. I can do this. And guess what? We have an entire community. Are we not so blessed? An entire community of people that show up to do the healing work, right? And we do it here. That's right. And we do it here together. We do it here together because our deepest longing is peace, love, and freedom, right? Peace, love, and freedom. We are safe, we are loved, we are free. We are safe, we are loved, we are free. And every step we take, So, and you know, when you start to do this deep work, that teacher shows up, always. The teachers show up and lead you on that way, whatever that teacher is. Very often it's the situation, right? It's the situation. And what I'm reminding myself is that situation is my journey to God. And I remember when I would have these nervous breakdowns, which I've shared with you guys because that's how they were diagnosed by psychiatrists, as nervous breakdowns. I would be very low functioning during them. And then I recognized they were spiritual breakthroughs because every single time my practice was stronger, my faith was stronger. I had grown every single time. And I remember seeing Cecile Etherly, one of my spiritual teachers that many of you know. We always began in prayer. We always ended in prayer. And I would say to her, I don't want to go through another one of those. I don't want to go through another one of those. And she would say, it's not going to be the same. Every single time it'll be easier. Every single time. And it is. It's easier. And so, of course, I'm going to be struggling right now. This is the Lenten season, right? This is the Lenten season. The cross for us in unity means crossing out. You realize that? Crossing out old ways of being, what we want to let go of, so that on Easter we resurrect, we rise, we become that new creation that we can be every single day. So that's what we're working on, the prayer practice, knowing that every step we take, we will find grace. So I have to end where I began, and that's with Mavis Staples and her family's band. They were gospel singers that began their career in the church. As I said before, they would put they would put song to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's message. And then they began crossing over to other genres. What happens when you do that? People are like, no, we know you as gospel singers. What are you thinking, right? That's what happened. What are you thinking? They began singing, performing, and recording Bob Dylan songs. Did y'all know that? Yeah, they did. And so they were challenged and told, hey, you've left gospel music. But here's what Pops Staples said in an interview. Gospel ain't nothing but the truth, and we are telling the truth in our songs. We've been singing message songs. The Staples singers' thing is to sing love, peace, and freedom. The Staples singers' thing is to sing love, peace, and freedom. That message was their walking prayer, and they sang it so beautifully, right? Yes. Love, peace, and freedom. Every step I take, I will find my grace. So that's our song. Maybe we can't sing it as beautifully as others in this room can. Not to mention any names. However, the rest of us can still choose to make that our prayer, right? That is our walking prayer. Love, peace, and freedom. Amen? Amen. Thank you.